Hey there, and welcome to episode number, this is
13.
Lucky number 13.
Even though we've had a rough start, it's lucky number 13.
Hey, you know, it's hard in the beginning, it's messy in the middle, and it's beautiful in the end. That's the mantra I'm living by these days.
I like it.
And by the time the recorded version of this hits the web,
all of this chatter will be gone.
Yeah, exactly. We'll cut it all out. It will be so polished and beautiful, and people will think that we're so professional and that we just we have a natural ability to get in front of a camera on the internet live, crank up a few mics, and we're just like total pros. Well, and this is where my phone being right there is going to be a distraction.
Yes.
So we're here right this moment on Dial a Drummer for episode 13.
13?
On Monday. And today is October the 2nd. Is that right?
That is correct.
And right now by my clock, it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes.
And we're here live taping our show that eventually ends up at dialadrummer.net. Mm-hmm. But you can find us on all the socials. If you pretty much hit every social network and you search for Dial a Drummer, you'll find us. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Periscope Twitter. We're on Instagram. And this week, we're streaming to a brand new site. We're adding to our family of people.
Tell us, Brian.
Dude, we are streaming so many different places at one time.
It makes my head spin.
It's crazy. So actually this week, I want to give a shout out to anyone from Chew.tv that's watching us this week.
Chew.tv.
Yeah, Chew TV it's a live streaming website that's primarily for DJs. Oh, cool. But they're also encouraging producers and musicians and people who are musical personalities to add a channel and to put programming up there.
Oh, nice.
So most of what you'll see at Chew TV is a lot of DJs, a lot of this. Or now with laptops, it's a lot of this.
This.
That's the sound of, if you take the soundtrack away, that's the sound of the DJ. Click, pop.
You'll superimpose something on the edit later, right?
Yeah. That's why people like Dead Mouse.
But that's cool. Another
helmets.
way for people to express their art form.
Right.
In a live streaming
And at
capacity.
a certain point, one of the things about putting a channel up on Chew TV is at some point we're actually going to bring some content to that site that's drum specific, and especially drums in a production specific. Live drums and recorded drums, programming, loops, all kinds of cool stuff. So this is just one piece of content that we're starting to kind of get our feet wet with this platform. So I want to welcome the Chew TV people, anyone that's from that channel that's watching today. And feel free to leave comments. Shannon has a brand new Chromebook that we're trying. We're trying a lot of cool technology today that we're monitoring chats with. So if you've got comments, you've got questions, by all means, you can leave them here in the live stuff. If you're watching or listening to the recorded version, you can always email us at dialadrummer@gmail.com or hashtag us on any of the social networks with the hashtag dialadrummer. And one of the things I'm welcoming for people to start doing this week is if you're playing a gig, if you're doing a recording session, if you're just practicing, take a picture of it, put it on your social profile, and hashtag us Dial a Drummer.
Okay, nice.
What I'd love to start doing
is some interaction.
Yeah, and start featuring some people. You know, if somebody's playing a really cool gig on a really cool kit, and we're going to talk about gear today. We're going to totally geek out today. You're going to love this. If somebody's got a really cool kit in a really cool place, take a picture, hashtag us, hashtag Dial a Drummer, and show us. We would love to feature it on the show.
Absolutely.
We'd like to show people what you're doing. This isn't just about what we're sitting here doing.
No, we're trying to create a community for drummers and all musicians, really, just a platform to have some fun with.
Yeah. So all of those great ways to get in touch with us. Make sure you share us with your friends. That's a huge favor you can do. And go to our YouTube channel. Just search Dial a Drummer on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Every week, a few more people are subscribing, and they're getting us to that magic number where we can secure that channel as the Dial a Drummer moniker, the Dial a Drummer channel, in name, address,
We're
URL.
Getting there. We're close. We're getting there.
If you go to dialadrummer.net/YouTube, it'll actually take you to our page directly. But we're trying to get that youtube.com/dialadrummer because that makes it official.
Just makes it cooler.
Yeah. It makes a couple of dads on the internet much cooler.
That's right.
So today, what
Got our own YouTube station.
man, you catch us on the Me Tubes. Oh man, I love getting on them.
You've made it when you have your own YouTube.
I'm a YouTube star, mama. So today we are going to totally
Party of one.
Well, it's two now, baby.
That's right.
We're both there together. Yeah. All right. So today we're going to totally geek out about drums because that's really one of the reasons why we started this little
That's true.
shindig, is so that we could talk about cool gear that we like, things that we like to play on, things we like to hit things with, and
Our favorite go-to things.
yeah, exactly. So we're talking about our we're calling this the rig rundown.
Yes.
And it's basically a rundown of the gear that we use live and or in the studio. And we can talk about why we love that stuff, why we use that stuff, and why it's so near and dear to our hearts.
Absolutely. What we're using, who we're using, that kind of thing.
We're definitely doing like drum talk radio today.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, this is like
This is especially close to our heart because it's our gear.
right. Exactly.
It's not like some backline kit we're forced to play.
Well, that's it. Like,
Right.
you know, if you end up going to a gig that has backline, you're there at the mercy of whatever shows up. And I know you, like me, you've got
And how hard the guy played the kit before you got to play on it. Or the head's wasted.
or where they pulled it from. There's been a few times I've gotten kits. I'm like, did they get this from some 10-year-old's room?
My favorite is they take the floor tom leg and put a stick in it because they're missing a leg. That's
Yeah.
a good one.
That's a good one. Oh man! So when you're getting backline, you really are at the. And I've had DW kits, I've had Ludwig kits, I've had some great backline kits. I've also had the Pearl Export kit from 1986 that's got everything rusted out on it, and one leg's missing off the
And
bass
the
drum.
original heads.
Yeah,
Yep.
they still say Pearl on them.
They got a divot this big, but they still say Pearl.
The 80s font, and they got the little tray, the Remo tray that has the foam in it. Remember those things?
Yeah, or just the tray. The foam's gone.
The foam disintegrated a couple of decades ago. The tray's
You
still
have this
there.
nice click.
Yeah. So backline kits, they can be, that's a mixed bag of hurt. But your own kit, your own thing, when you get to use it on gigs.
Yeah, your sound.
Even when it's just a little club gig.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, 20,000 people.
It creates a very nice comfort because it's yours and everything's exactly where you want it.
Yeah. And you and I take very different philosophies about our gig rigs.
True.
For you, what's your philosophy about the drums and cymbals and things that you've picked?
Generally, so one of the differences in between our two approaches, I generally play the same setup for everything.
Yeah.
I'm a Sabian endorser. I'm a trick drum endorser. I'm an Aquarian drum heads endorser.
You get a shirt for that?
I got a nice shirt. Thank you, Timmy Klitzman, for this shirt. But with the trick drums, because they're aluminum, they have a warmer sound. So I tend to, if you'll pop up my small gig rig there.
That one?
Yeah. So that kit there is my main go-to live rig.
Okay. Tell us what that kit is.
So that is a trick, all aluminum set of drums. It's an 8x8, 9x10, 12x14, a 16x20, and that is a 5.5x13 snare on that. All aluminum shells. And my live kit has the May miking system in it.
Okay.
Love the ease of use.
Flip
with
over,
that.
I can see
You
that.
can see the mics. I'm using the Aquarian Response 2s on the toms and the Focus X on the snare. Texture coated. And I use the Sabian Evolution line. I'm using with that picture there, you're looking at 13-inch hats, 16-inch crash, it's the 7-inch splash.
Oh, that's an odd size.
Yeah, it's the Weckel size because it's got a 7. There's a 12. It's the 20-inch Evolution ride, and then I'm actually using a second 16-inch Evolution crash. I like that they're very consistent, but there's a slight difference in tonality.
Right.
So that's my go-to rig as far as drum sizes, because the nice thing about the aluminum shells, the toms sound larger than they really are. So the 8 is more equivalent to a 10 being closer to a 12, 14 is huge.
Sure.
So, and I like the small drums. I like everything to be very ergonomic. And then, for the studio side, I'll usually add, if you've got a bigger, I'll add the 16 floor, mounted. And then sometimes I'll either have a secondary snare drum or maybe a 12-inch tom on the left.
Gotcha.
Just to have a little more dynamic range. Same cymbal setup with bigger sizes and a few more choices.
Okay. So let's talk for a second, since we are geeking out about drums.
Yeah.
First off, what is the sound that you're going for that you get through your trick drums?
A very open, resonant. I don't use any muffling on the toms. I like them wide open, nice sustain. Kind of a la the early Weckel 80s sound. I've always liked that tuning, and the drums tune up beautifully. On the Focus X heads, there is a, underneath ring, takes a little the top bite out of it. And then the bass drum's got a pillow, little Evans EQ pad or whatever that's called. But I just, for general all-purpose, I just like that open sound.
Because people use aluminum snare drums all the time.
Yes.
I mean, we've been using aluminum snare drums just about as far back as you can go into mass-produced drums. All the way back into the 60s, maybe even the 50s. So people already have a preconceived notion about what aluminum snare drums sound like.
I'll tell you what they are not.
Okay, that's my question.
So a lot of people associate aluminum with sound, or they think, let's say if somebody that doesn't have the experience with the toms, that a lot of times they'll think they're more like a stainless steel kind of a sound, which is a much brighter, a little more obnoxious sound. I mean, it's really the only way to describe it. It's louder. It's
very aggressive and
you
loud.
really have to tamper it down.
Yeah.
With the best description I can give the toms is that with the aluminum, it's like you have the warmth of maple, but the projection of birch. So it's like a beautiful marriage of the two.
Right.
So if you want, depending on what heads you're using, if you want more of that jazz tuning, no problem.
Right.
Their tuning range is pretty infinite. Is one thing I like about them, is that I've never had to, you play a birch kit, you're going to get a sound. You play a maple kit, you're going to get a sound. You play a mahogany kit, you're going to get a sound. For me, and as long as I've been with Trick, which is 20 years now, which thank you, Mike Dorfman. They've just been a great go-to. Engineers love them. They dial up beautifully. And I just like that open, consistent sound.
Right. Because most people would think with any kind of metal toms or metal bass drum that there's some kind of metallic
ring or boinginess. Yeah.
Well, I had a discussion this week with a guy as I'm working on these inner monitors, trying to decide about the content of the shells that all the components live in.
Right.
And there are a lot of different things that I could put these in. I can use acrylic, I can use plastic, I can use aluminum. And one guy was telling me, you don't want to use metal because they'll make them sound awful. I'm like, well, no, actually.
And warm it up quite a bit.
And it may not, at least in my testing, like what these shells are made out of, it really does not matter what they're made out of for a few reasons. Sonically, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because number one, the metal is so thin that it doesn't really have a resonance. It's not like a piece of steel that you can hit and it goes boom. With the armature drivers, they're right at the edge of the ear, the earpiece. So they're essentially sitting in your ear with no impedance, between the armature, the speaker, and your ear canal. And even with the bass frequencies, like the bass drivers in these things, the bass frequencies are so long that this is not a big enough enclosure for that frequency to even touch it. Like it's still opening up by the time it gets out of their thing. So while I'm talking about ear monitors, I might as well talk about our sponsor.
Right. Absolutely.
I didn't mean to do that.
Nice segue, Brian.
Maybe I didn't. But we are sponsored this week by the Session Ace EST ear monitor, actually.
They do sound great.
It's a great ear monitor package. I just got a text from someone today, a buddy of ours that has been using them, that basically he had to use them. They were a backup pair. He bought them as a backup pair, and he had to use them for one reason or another over his very expensive custom molded ears.
Right.
And
high dollar versions.
Yeah, I think he had the other ones were malfunctioning, and he had sent them in for a repair, so he had to use the backups, the cheap backups, and come to find out, like, he got all this amazing low end and all of this.
He was very happy with
great clarity and high end. He sent me his text. He's like, "Man, I just think I'm gonna stay with these.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the others fixed,
That's a nice
and those are gonna
testimony
be
right there.
the backup." Yeah, and so the Session Ace ESTs are a great ear monitor for people that really want to hear music the way it's supposed to be heard.
And this ties in with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It goes into the sound that you're trying to hear and have in your head when you're playing these shows live.
Well,
That's the great thing about in-ear monitoring.
If the instrument or the tools that you use were not important sonically, then you could use any drum. Yeah. You could put any ear monitor in your ear and run with it, and you're just fine. But with ear monitors, if you don't have enough low end, enough richness in the low end, you really don't feel connected to the music. If you don't have a nice crisp high end with a lot of detail, you don't really feel like you're hearing yourself well, and you don't feel like you're hearing all that's going on around you. And getting a nice sound stage in your head for all the things that are happening around you is important.
And that's why a lot of people don't end up liking in-ears, because they feel like they're in this little box.
Right.
But with these in particular, and some of what we're talked about in our monitor mix show, you can get everything you need in your ears and feel the room, and you feel it's like wearing a perfect set of headphones. Right. Hearing that mix spot on the way you want to hear it.
You can get everything dialed in exactly like you want to hear it, live or in the studio, and everything can just be sitting right there so that you can it helps you make better music, I think.
I agree.
When you hear yourself better, when you hear everyone else better, you can respond better. So
when you can relax and just play and hear everything the way you really wanted to always hear it.
Sure.
Man, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So if you go to dialdrummer.net/EST, you can hit the Session Ace website and buy. It's an entire package that you get the ears, you get several different types of cables, a lot of different ear tips because everybody's ear is different. You get some extra adapters and extensions. You get some collar clips so you can secure these things and they don't move around on you. It's a great package.
A cool little case.
The case is
it's a great size too, because you can put it in your pocket if you have to.
Yeah. You can throw it in any bag. It fits in your stick bag if you like to throw extra things in your stick bag. You can put it in your pocket. You can throw it in a duffel bag. And you won't lose it. It's just small enough to fit anywhere. It's just big enough that you won't lose it.
All right. So let's go back to our drum
So
topics.
the idea is, how something responds and how it sounds to you has everything to do with how well you're going to play. So, we've all heard people talk about that adage that, it's not the gear, it's the player, man. Sure. And I did have a time back in 1990, a buddy of mine, James Edwards, shout out to James. He was in this Best Guitarist in Mississippi contest sponsored by one of the music store chains there. And he ended up winning the contest. So that night we ended up going all down to this big heavy metal. This is 1990. It was like right in the middle of hair metal central, dude. And we're all long haired rocker types, and we go down to this heavy metal. I miss those days. I know it. We go to this heavy metal bar called the Creek in Jackson, Mississippi, right? And the judges for this competition were Greg Bissonette, who at the time was playing with David Lee Roth.
Oh, God. Yeah, that was a killer band.
Yeah, and the bass player from that band, Billy Sheehan, was a judge in that competition. So you had the rhythm section for David Lee Roth judging this Best Guitarist thing. So
and everybody was nervous now.
Yeah. Well, and the guitar player was a guy named Andy Timmons.
Yeah.
Which at that point he was
he
was in a band called Danger.
Right.
Let's get naughty. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but Andy's a player, man.
I'm making it a point to sing at least once on every episode.
I like it.
Not because I can sing well.
Change the show to Dial a Singer.
Yeah.
Brian's looking for a new career path, so if you need a singing guy, he's your man.
I'm going to pivot.
He's good for one song a night.
I'm going to start fronting a Phil Collins tribute band. That's what I'm going to do.
It.
Slick my hair back. It's going to be great.
I love it. You love them concert toms.
So anyway, I don't even know where I was going with this, but I'll find the thread. You just give me time. Give me time. I'll spin it back around. Anyway, Andy Timmons, he was in this band called Danger Danger, but he's gone on to do some amazing things. Great solo records. He was a musical director for like Olivia Newton-John or something.
Right. So you're in this club.
Anyway, so we're hanging with those guys because they were judging the competition. Our buddy wins the competition. Nice. You sort of get to be new. You get 3 new friends who are famous.
You're the super locals all of a sudden.
Yeah. And all of a sudden we're hanging with the real rock stars. Right?
Nice.
So anyway, there was just some nondescript metal cover band playing that night. Mm-hmm. I think the drummer was playing like on a CB 700 drum set and camber cymbals. And
doesn't get more metal than that, baby.
I tell you what, man, you could have given them cardboard boxes and tin pans. It would have sounded just about the same. And you know, the bass player had some, you know, off-brand bass, and the speaker cabinet had like one speaker blown out of it. It was like crappy gear and a crappy band. But because those 3 guys were in the house, obviously they're going to have to sit in and play.
Right.
And so they sat in for probably 30 minutes and played. Of course, they played Shy Boy because Billy and Greg definitely. Right. Billy Sheehan sits in. He's going to play Shy Boy. It just makes sense
because he can.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but what was funny to me was, you know, we listened to this really horrible cover band, and those 3 guys get up there, and it sounded like a completely different set of gear.
Right.
Now, did it sound as good as if Billy would have had his signature Yamaha bass?
Sure, but it ties into what you're saying. The player does make a lot of...
The player makes a huge difference.
How you speak on the instrument.
But you saddle a great player when you put them on inferior equipment.
Absolutely.
And in some cases, the experience for the player might not play his best.
Right.
Because part of the idea of cherry picking the stuff that's right for you is that you're able to really interact live with an instrument.
Right.
That's what makes playing real acoustic drums so different than we could all just buy electronic kits and never have anybody complain about the noise ever again if it were that simple.
And nowadays you've got turn of the dial, you got every shell imaginable.
Right.
It makes life easy.
Right. You hit the electronic pad and all of a sudden the perfect backbeat comes out.
Right.
You know, no work, no muss, no fuss.
That's right.
Well, unfortunately, that's really not the nature of music.
Right.
Because if you could build a 2x4 with baling wire and nails from Home Depot that could sample great guitar sounds, by that theory, you should be able to make a great guitar with those 2 things, a 2x4 and some nails and some baling wire. But it's not the case. It really, a great instrument allows you, when you learn to harness the power of it, it allows you to be able to coax emotion from sound. And so when you've got a kit that you sit down and you go, this is the sound that is my sound, my cultivated thing. And especially in your case, when you use such a fringe instrument like a trick drum, like you're not going to go down to Guitar Center and see 8 different lines of
the same
trick
thing.
Drums. Yeah, sitting there on the floor. That's one of those choices that you make when you've put a lot of thought into what you're playing.
And I'm one of these guys that's always spent a lot of time working on tuning and making sure my stuff sounds really good.
Sure.
And I've tried everything. Yeah. I used to endorse a different brand, and they are still a fantastic brand. But for me and my ears and pulling out the sounds of the drums that I really love, this was the go-to for me.
I mean, at this point in your life, the wonderful thing about being an adult, truly being an adult, and especially being a working professional player that has a salient career, like you could buy whatever you wanted.
Sure, absolutely.
it's not like you those drums are freaking expensive, even at an artist price.
Yep.
But any great set of drums, any high-level professional quality kit is a lot of money.
Yes.
And you're in a position you can buy whatever you want to buy, and you choose those.
Yes, I do. That's how much I love them.
Mike Dorfman, I would like you to write Brian Stevens, LLC on that check for that wonderful
endorsement of...
You just got a great advertisement for your drums. They are great drums. And while we're talking about Trick, we'll go ahead and drop down, literally drop down to the floor and talk about the pedals for a second.
Absolutely.
Because you and I both are great lovers of the Trick pedals.
Yep. The hi-hat pedals and the bass drum pedals.
And if I would have put a little more thought into this, I would have pulled one of each from downstairs and we could show it. We'll show some pictures on the recorded version.
We'll do a pedal show again like we did in
back in the old days. Yeah. If you search on YouTube for Pedal Pusher TV, I think we might have something on there about that or something.
Yeah, we did a whole show on pedals one day.
We did snare drums, we did all that stuff.
Angles.
So
we did snare
for
drum
people
angles.
that are the uninitiated, why don't you tell them about what makes the Trick bass drum pedal so different?
Okay. So the Trick bass drum pedal, and you're right, we should have brought one. The biggest thing with the technology of the Trick pedals is that the spring technology is totally different than anything else on the market.
Right.
The ease of use, the adjustability, the also being made out of aluminum. Mm-hmm. There's really no breakable parts on these pedals,
right.
And they are solid. They are as smooth as you could ask for a pedal.
Yep.
Because of the compression spring, the tension is totally different than a normal pedal.
Yep.
You don't have to work as hard.
Yep.
So it allows you to play more freely and easier, and just instead of feeling like the pedal is driving you,
right.
You can really drive your bus, if you will.
Yeah.
You know.
And the thing that's interesting about the compression spring and that direct drive mechanism, on the actual link that links the pedal to the beater, you get an even pull from the beginning of the stroke to the end.
Yes.
With most chain pedals and regular springs, the ones on the side there,
right.
like a DW or a Pearl or name anybody else's pedal, the last like 20% of the stroke is actually a little faster than the first 80%.
Right.
And especially if you do one of those, like DW had the offset cam for the longest time.
Right.
Like if you get one of those with the offset cam, they're actually designed to give you more velocity toward the end of the stroke.
Right.
So you get a little more snap getting in the head.
The biggest difference being with a standard pedal, if you will, because pretty much 90% of all brands still use a standard spring, you have to push that pedal down and release it for the spring to recoil.
Yeah.
Whereas with the compression spring on the Tricks, the tension is the same forward and back.
Yep.
So you literally do not have to play as hard, and the pedal is instantly quicker, smoother. I don't know about you, but it's like easier on the knees.
Yeah.
There's less tension on the knees, which is huge. And then the hi-hat takes the same approach, and it's just an amazing instrument as well.
Well, the first time I played the hi-hat pedal was maybe 2.5 years ago at the NAMM show out in Anaheim. Mm-hmm. And it took me all of about 15 seconds of playing on that pedal to realize the difference. Like I had been going through a bunch of knee problems, my left knee. I had some MCL problems with my medial something ligament. I forgot the middle part of it. But the ligament in my left knee, just the repetitive stress of constantly using my hi-hat and slamming it into the floor on any number of other hi-hat pedals, it really kind of it wreaked some havoc in my knee capsule and with the inside ligament. The moment that I stepped on the Trick pedal and I started playing it, none of that pressure, none of the stuff that I had to deal with in terms of impact was there.
Nice.
Absolutely none of it. And I can say now, having used them for the better part of 2 years, that my knee pain and the cause of my knee pain completely gone.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
It really was the
but you
magic.
had to have it drained at one point, didn't you? Because
Like
it was so
every
bad.
3 months, I would have to go in and they would take
horrible.
a knee. They numb you up. They numb you up on your knee. I'm gonna show my knee on camera here. So
That thing, man, look at that. That's so nice. Look at that.
It's not all blown up like it used to be, but like on the inside here, when it would fill up with fluid, yeah, it actually kind of have a little.
So it made it hard to play.
It made it hard to do anything.
Yeah.
Like walking stairs, forget about it. You know, and I had to pay my kid to carry me up the stairs. But they would literally, they have to numb it all up. And then they take needles and they go into the bursa and they actually drain all it's gross, dude. Like one time I think they pulled a whole tumbler full of fluid out of my knee. And my doctor, shout out to my doctor, man. I've got one of the best guys. And I'm not going to tell you who he is because then you'll go to him and then I'll never get an appointment. But yeah, Emory Sports Medicine people, they do a great job working with football players, working with baseball players, working with musicians. That's kind of a new thing in their sports medicine arm of Emory, is to work with musicians that have repetitive stress injuries. Yes. And so this was an injury, like from the second that my doctor saw my MRI and saw my knee, his first question was, "What is it that you do for a living?" And when I explained it to him, he went, "Oh, well, that totally makes sense. Here's the problem that you're having." At the time I was playing barefoot.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He's like, "You're going to have to get some good shoes. You're going to have to get shoes that give you some arch support, that have a little bit of shock absorption."
Interesting. So it made that big of a difference in the knee by playing barefoot.
Yeah. Because all of that force when I'm, because I use my
constant tension. Sure.
I use my hi-hat foot a lot where I'm playing eighth notes or 16th notes, and it's an instrument.
If you're a heel up player, so the tension's constantly there too.
Constantly there. For the longest time with playing swing, I would play swing heel up, and I still do if I need a real loud chick. But now I kind of use more of a rocking motion, so there's a little bit less of that impact. But all of that, really, like that whole consideration went away when I got that hi-hat pedal, because something about the way that the footboard is made, the design of that cam thing that pulls the ride down, like it's voodoo the way this thing works. It's pretty amazing.
One of the coolest things, I'm going to interrupt you, with the adjustments is you don't have to be under either trying to pull a spring or loosen a nut. You can do it as you're playing in a song and not
just grab the dial and turn it.
Yeah.
It just clicks into place in different places. It's cool.
It's design genius.
Yeah. And something about the way that the pitch of everything, the angle of everything, where the energy gets transferred, you're not transferring into the floor and right back up into your leg. I'm telling you, I'm going to go see my doctor in probably about another month for something completely unrelated. It's called age and arthritis.
Yeah, I get some of that here.
They scoped my knee about a year ago. About a year ago, I had my knee scoped, and some of the first onset of arthritis was in there. So I'm going to go back and see about that.
Yeah, I've developed some here in the thumb.
Yeah.
Maybe having to switch from playing traditional all these years, because boy, there's some times where that boy gets aggravated.
Definitely.
Sideshow. That'll be another show. Injuries on the job.
Yeah. But really, that hi-hat pedal, I get, that's my gleaming endorsement for the hi-hat pedal is not only is it the smoothest hi-hat pedal you'll ever play on, it's super light the way that the legs fold up. You just turn 2 dials, legs are up, one more little cranky dial thing, and then the footboard comes up. It packs up really good, super light. Same way with the pedals. Yeah. As robust as those pedals look, you'd think that they were super, super heavy.
Yeah, they're really not.
And there's some out there that are. You know, some of the brands, Iron Cobras and some of these others that are just like, you got to hire somebody else to help you carry it.
Right.
And these are super light but super sturdy. The thing that really sold me on the trick bass drum pedals is, besides the feel and the quality of the craftsmanship, is that you let me borrow one of your pedals that was pretty old when I borrowed it.
And it had early ones.
No noise in the pedal after it had been played for so long. I played it for at least another year in the studio, and again, zero noise. And one of the worst things in the world, I get it a lot of times when drummers come into my studio to work, is that they'll bring their favorite pedal and it's some rickety DW from the 80s.
Squeaky wheel syndrome.
Dude, like everything squeaks on it. Hinges are rattling and all kinds of crazy things are going on. Is anybody commenting at all?
No.
They're just listening to us talk. They're fascinated by this geeky talk.
It's riveting.
But the thing that I usually find with other people's pedals is there's any number of different noises emitting from these pedals. Sure. And most guys, they don't really do a lot of maintenance.
True.
They might change a spring. They might put some silicone, like that sprayable silicone, into a few of the ball bearing joints or something. But
biggest thing that surprises me too with a lot of these pedals is people don't talking about maintenance. They don't take the time to tighten those set screws that hold the cams. And even that a little play there can create noise.
Yeah.
And when you're on the engineer on the gig and you're like, dude,
you put 14
I can
to 16
hear every
mics.
Little movement.
Yeah. 14 to 16 mics on a kit. If there's any kind of noise, you're going to hear it.
You're going to hear it.
Even with a bunch of guitars and stuff going on, you're going to always hear that. And it's going to be in time, which makes it even more annoying. It's like,
it's the Brian singing show.
So I'm going to sample that, and they're going to make
pretty good, though.
Make
I
a
like
track
that.
out of it. Jeez. I clown for your amusement, you know? Anyway.
But we do encourage people to go out and try out the trick pedals. They are amazing, just pieces of gear that are designed with professional playing in mind to make your life easier.
And even if you're not a professional player, you spend so much time on top of those pedals that you want it to be, you want to have a seamless experience between the tools that you use and the music that you make.
And the other thing I would add to the trick products is that, especially with the pedals, sometimes people are like, oh, they're so expensive. Well, they're no more expensive than any other products, but I guarantee you will not buy it again. Right. In the sense that there are a lot of other brands out there. Parts are going to break.
Yeah.
You're going to be replacing this. Pedal boards snap all the time. Do yourself a favor. Yeah, buy some good pedals to start and you won't think twice.
I bought my first DW double pedal back in like 88 or 89. You know, I took my Christmas money and I worked all summer and like I spent a lot of money for a high school kid to spend that much money on a pedal. It's kind of
It's impressive.
Yeah. And I had that pedal, I mean, clear through till, gee whiz, 99, 2000 maybe.
Right on.
I mean, I didn't, eventually I took it out of commission as far as gigs and stuff.
Sure, but you got some good life out of that sucker.
And so, by the time I finally decommissioned it, like, there were things that were bent and broken and I think about how much I paid for that and how long I used it. And if I were to amortize that cost along with all the replacement parts over that time, it wouldn't have been more expensive for me to get a trick pedal, and I'd probably still be playing the trick pedal. When you think about that cost, bass drum pedals and hi-hat pedals are two of the things that we buy that we tend to use until the wheels fall off.
That's true. That's true. You don't think about replacing it until you have to.
Right. Cymbals or snare drums and even full drum kits, we sort of we'll change those out on a whim sometimes. There's a new trend in the industry. There's a new sound that we don't feel like we're getting.
It's a new dampening product, whatever it is. Yeah.
Somebody makes a really, really inexpensive Mexican kit that you can get for a third the price.
Right. That sounds amazing.
That sounds great. You buy a new kit, even if it's just to have some fun, kind of like the moped of drum kits. But pedals, we tend to play those things till the screws fall out of them. So if you're going to spend the money and play it for that much time, really, you're not spending that much more money when you amortize that across the decade or two that you may keep that pedal. So it's not really that much more expensive. Or if you buy 5 of these cheap Gibraltar pedals, in the span of time, you buy one really good pro-level pedal.
Right. Well, it's kind of like you mentioned, your doctor told you to get good shoes for the support. Well, if you think about your pedals being your feet, Why do you want to go buy crappy shoes?
Right.
And wonder why your knees, your back, everything hurts.
Right.
Start with pro gear, and you're good to go.
Well, and that was his second question was, tell me about the equipment that you're playing on. And especially with my practice kits, I had cheaper hi-hat stands on my practice kits. It's like, why am I going to spend
whatever stands?
Whatever stand I already had or whatever was on sale at Guitar Center. That was the hi-hat stand on either one of my practice kits at the time. And and his thing was, you spend the majority of your time playing. The elapsed time, if you're practicing 4 or 5 days a week, you're spending the majority of that time that you're playing on these really cheap pedals. Mm-hmm. Like, shouldn't that be as important as what you take to the gig or to the session? Because you're spending as much, if not more time on them. Why not invest in those and have a really high quality thing that helps you avoid these repetitive stress injuries? Mm-hmm. So very perceptive doctor. Thanks, Dr. Webb. Appreciate you, bud.
Well, that's a great testimony too, especially to the hi-hat stand, to know that it made such a difference. It's probably sustained your drumming life in a sense that you don't have to go to the doctor all the time.
Yeah. So I mean, I honestly, at the time, I was thinking, I don't know that I'll be playing live gigs much longer.
Right on.
Because there were a few 4-hour gigs that I would have, especially the week or two before I got a good draining done, good bloodletting done. It's very medieval.
And then you got to load out afterwards.
Like, I remember I was playing a bar gig. It was a 4-hour bar gig, and 3 of those hours were solid. Like from the downbeat of one song to the last note of the last song was 3 hours. That last hour, I did not think I could get through it. I mean, that's how bad the pain was. It took me out of the moment completely, and so focused in on my pain, I don't even know what songs we played. Luckily, I didn't lose the gig.
You're just trying to get through and please get me home.
So they made a huge difference. None of those problems.
Very nice.
If anything, if I have any joint problems at this point, it is age.
Sure.
It's just age and time at this point.
Well, we've been doing this a long time too.
Yeah.
There is a lot of wear and tear with the whole drumming.
We're so old, man. We're so old. We're ready for retirement.
No. Not there yet, buddy.
Not even close. I'm going to start going backwards.
So show me one of your kits,
all right,
brother.
So,
what is my philosophy is more of the same kit for everything.
I have a totally different philosophy.
What you got?
And my philosophy really is I want the right tool in my toolbox for the right job. Mm-hmm. I used to, especially when times were lean, really lean, I would try and make one kit do everything, and to marginal success. I mean, the first pro level kit I bought for myself, I bought in 1998, and it was a Ludwig Maple Classic. I still have it. And it was, at the time, the kit that I could afford that was at a pro level, and it was the kit that seemed to be able to do the most things. So I could take it and play a rock gig or a pop gig. I could either change the heads or just tune the heads up really high. I could play a
nice
jazz
versatility.
gig. Yeah, it was pretty versatile. But it did cap out in different places. It capped out in terms of volume level. Some of the super high level gigs where I needed more volume on stage, not just the mics,
just the sonic volume.
Just to take up enough sonic space on the stage. Mm-hmm. It would cap out sometimes. For certain kinds of quiet gigs, it didn't have the level of touchable detail that I could get in a really, really low space. Even if you tuned it up, it just wasn't quite as responsive. They weren't power toms, but they weren't the shallow standard size. Right. Kind of an in-betweener. And if you had to play really, really soft, certain kinds of jazz gigs, some kinds of club gigs, like dinner set gigs, I couldn't always get the responsiveness I wanted out of it. So, and then some kinds of sessions, especially the early 2000s when I really started doing a lot of recording sessions, one kit wouldn't do everything. If somebody needed a bottom sound, I couldn't get it out of that kick drum. Sure. It was a good middle of the road kick drum, but for the
so
edges.
Do you tend to use a different setup based on what the gig is then?
It has everything to do with the style of music, the type of gig that it is, whether it's live or in the studio, the volume I need to play at, the dynamic range that I need to play with. Because some gigs, even though we like to think we have a lot of dynamic range, we really don't.
Sure.
You know, with some of your pop gigs now and rock gigs, it's hit them as hard as you can hit them for as long as you can hit them, and that's the dynamic.
Right. It's a 2-hour show.
Playing
Here we
with
go.
dynamics, man. I'm hitting them as loud as I can. That sort of thing. You're hitting, just so hard. But again, you need a drum set that's not gonna. You're not gonna overmodulate.
Right.
So I change drum sets almost daily. So the problem with that is that requires that I have a lot of different choices. So what I really did, thanks to you, I sort of found a family of drums that I went, these as a
what
big
speaks
picture,
to you.
Yeah, a big picture. When I think of the recordings I love the most, the drummers are some of my favorites. Some of the live gigs and concerts I've been to, that the sound of the drums were the sounds I was going for, and to sitting in front of these different kits. I did find, and I'm not an endorser yet of this company, but in the Gretsch family, I could find something through the complete line of drums that would do something for everything.
Sure.
Now, no one kit will do everything, but across the entire line, I can find something
that works
for any situation. So
and you're talking about a classic American brand that has got that classic Gretsch sound, if you will.
Right.
There's
whether you're talking about like classic rock sounds, like the Rolling Stones. If you're listening to the Rolling Stones, you're listening to Gretsch drums.
Yeah.
If you're listening to some harder rock players, even players that were known for being Ludwig guys, or you're probably listening to Gretsch drums. Some of your favorite session guys. Vinny Colaiuta is my favorite drummer of all time. And for years, he was with Yamaha, and you'd see him play live, and he'd be playing Yamaha drums. I even have one of his Yamaha signature snare drums.
right.
But on all the recordings that you would hear, the things that were for posterity, the majority, I would say 99% of the drums, but maybe there's that one odd recording this isn't the case, but they were the same Gretsch drums.
Right.
And once I found that out, that my favorite guy actually was a Gretsch guy, that kind of sold me on
Sure.
it.
That was kind of pushed you over the edge.
Charlie Watts, Elvin Jones. All these amazing players throughout the pantheon of contemporary music have played them. But especially when I found out my guy was using Gretsch drums on the sly, I was like, okay, well, maybe I know what I need to choose. and I'll admit, I got in on the cheap end. 2005, I needed a new road kit. My Ludwigs that I had that I loved, I knew that I was going to be out on the road every single week in vans and RVs, traveling with a band to college towns and to clubs. I'm like, I'm not going to beat up my really good ones. So I went down to Atlanta Pro Percussion, and this was when Kent Alberley was working there. And from him, I bought a set of Gretsch Catalina Birch drums.
I know.
I think I paid $650 for the whole kit, just the drums, not the hardware. And
it's that pretty Caribbean blue or whatever they call it.
Beautiful. That was a beautiful.
He still has this kit, and you still have this in your practice room.
It's my practice space. It's the rock kit that I practice on.
Right.
And so that was my first foray, and I roaded the crap out of those things. And sound guys made a comment about how great those drums sounded. Now, it helped that I kept fresh heads on there, and then I tuned them, and I thought about the sound.
You did your maintenance.
Yeah, I did my maintenance, but I picked a great sound of drums. And for under $1,000, it really was the best set of drums I could find.
Sure.
I went through everything in that store, and that was the one that was in that sub $1,000 price range. I was like, I wouldn't mind beating these up, and they sound good.
Right.
And I used them for the better part of maybe 8 years.
And to have gotten a nice lacquered kit in that price range. That was
price range, that was sick,
unheard
crazy.
of back then.
So especially as I turned more to being more of a studio professional and doing more freelancing as opposed to being in a band, and having all kinds of different different places I needed to play, and different environments, and different music, and different people, and different rooms, I started to kind of reach out and look at the rest of the brand. So I'll show a few pictures at this point. People have seen the picture of my live room, and I would say 65% of the time I'm playing this Gretsch USA custom kit that you see in that picture right there.
It's a pretty standard setup, 10, 12, 14, 16.
Yeah, and
snare of the day, if you will.
It literally is like the sizes that are just out of the catalog. Now, for this picture, we put a pork pie snare drum in there that I found up at Forks during one of my trips to Nashville. And
Bill
honestly,
makes some nice stuff.
Oh yeah, it's a great snare drum. It ended up in that picture because it was bright and shiny, and it popped against the rest of the kit.
Those are great photos, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Canon T6i, man. I took them myself, believe it or not. But yeah, that was the whole reason we actually used the pork pie snare drum, because it kind of popped in the picture.
Sure.
Otherwise, I would have put a Gretsch snare drum there.
Absolutely.
I'll put some pictures up in the recorded feed, but I think people have seen my wall of snare drums. Of 68 snare drums, I think I currently own now 44 of them are Gretsch snare drums. And so as far as snare drums go, it pretty much runs the gamut. I've got several different chrome over brass options. I've got steel, hammered steel, aluminum. Their USA Custom, I guess it is, high-end aluminum, seamless aluminum shells. Probably one of my favorite snare drums to record with. It's just an incredibly versatile snare drum.
Hard to beat that aluminum. I'm just saying, brother. I'm just saying. I'm a big proponent of the aluminum drums.
It's a great sounding drum.
And anybody that wants to come check them out can come to my studio anytime and check them out.
There is your invitation right there.
I'm inviting all and any.
You can go right to Shannon's studio and play.
And then conversely, if you want to check out anything Gretsch, come to yours.
Yeah, you might have to pay me, but yeah. No.
He only does cartage fees.
But so the USA Customs, that particular USA Custom kit, stays mostly in the studio.
It's pretty much your go-to studio.
Yeah, 65% of the time, because it is pretty versatile.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I pull the 10 down and just have the 12 sitting there. Usually if I change that configuration, it's a style thing.
Sure.
Like there are times when I'm playing on a session and I need 12, 16, not because, and I don't pull the 10 and 14 out sonically, I don't need them. It's that the placement of those drums with that tuning, it puts me in a different headspace.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of like a method actor in
so
that
then
way.
Conversely, since you change your setup based on the gig, it kind of, I would assume it would change kind of how you play and feel on that gig.
Very much so.
Because, versus what I'm doing where it's basically the same setup all the time.
Yeah.
Your vocabulary, your movement is...
Well, you have a strong identifiable identity musically.
Thank you.
And I'm the chameleon that you have no idea who that is.
Well, I appreciate your kind words, buddy.
Yeah, well, and that's so much of it for me is like, I as much as I want to be noticed on the show, and I talk probably 70% more than he does, musically when I'm playing, it is so not about me. It's about the music.
Sure,
it's about the other players. And so sonically, yeah, I want something that doesn't necessarily stand out. It stands out in the fact that it sounds great. But it doesn't stand out as, oh, well, that's Brian Stevens playing on that. Definitely. I recognize that sound.
Right.
No, that's not really my bag. My bag is what's the right thing.
Like you said, the right tool in the toolbox.
Right,
That's
right.
a nice analogy.
Well, for instance, one of the other kits that I play, I took this picture just the other day. I had a gig 2 weekends ago, and I took out this Steve Ferrone signature USA custom kit that I've got. Right now, this particular configuration that you don't see the other floor tom, but it's a 24 by 14 inch kick drum. And that kick drum alone is worth the price of admission.
That thing sounds amazing.
It is.
It is one of the best sounding 24s I've ever heard.
And you would think that it was this silly, crazy, Bonham-y kind of thing. And it can do that if you need it. But it's just a really great all-around versatile kick drum that's I used to think that 24-inch kick drums were just meant for hitting really hard.
Right.
Like just waylay them, just get into them. But the thing about these 24-inch kick drums, this one in particular I found with that 14-inch depth, is they're incredibly responsive. Mm-hmm. So I can play very musically on the bass drum, and everything just doesn't have to be loud.
The other nice thing about a 24 too is that you actually hit the drum in the middle.
Yeah.
With the beater versus, a 20 or 22, it's close.
Yeah.
But that standard 14 by 24 is just a magic sound.
And I actually use a beater that has an extended shaft on it so that it's actually high, the beater's higher in the air.
I got you.
So it really does get to that ideal point of impact. And with a drum like that, you can bury the beater and it has a pretty cool sound. But most of the time I'm playing off of the drum so you really get the full
But it's a very versatile size.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we played, like this particular gig, we played, George Benson's This Masquerade. And you would think with that kind of kick drum, that's the rock and roll kick drum.
Right.
Not so much so. You just get a nice little
right.
The
warmth is huge.
Yeah, it's huge. And to the point of, at one point, the bass player for this gig, Tommy Vickery, turned and he starts pointing at that kick drum. He's like, that's the most amazing kick drum ever.
Nice.
And when you get that kind of response from another player, like they freak out over how good something sounds, you made the right choice for the gig. And it's filling, for me, it's about how I fill the space up. Mm-hmm. Some drum sets are good behind the mics.
And don't translate, sure.
Right, like they don't necessarily translate in the space as well as you would like. Yamaha drums. And so Yamaha will never give me an endorsement, and neither would I take one. But in Yamaha drums, the one problem I have with them is the mics love Yamaha drums. Mm-hmm. Absolutely love them. Recording Custom Kit is one of the best sounding recording kits you'll ever play. It is a subpar experience to sit behind them for me.
Interesting.
Because I feel like there's not much there. There's not a whole lot of life and a lot of tone.
Is that more so because they're birch, or just they just don't speak to you on that level?
I'm not smart enough to answer that question, sir.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I just know that when
just something about them doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Sure.
The mic. I'll hear. There are some studios I go to that have a house kit, and you just play the house kit. It's a recording custom kit. I'll sit down. I might tweak a little, but most of the time, I just play it like it's sitting on the floor, and I have to go into the control room before I know that I'm getting a good sound.
Interesting.
Like I'm playing them, and I'm like, yeah, I think they're doing what they're supposed to do. And once I do a take, I'll walk in the control room, and I go, oh, okay, yeah, sounds amazing, awesome, great.
Here we go.
Sitting behind the drums, I can't.
You just don't connect.
They just
and
don't.
That's a big part of it, is the connection you have with the instrument.
Well, and there's some drums that, especially when you need a rock sound, there's some drums that when you hit them, they sound small, no matter how you hit them. But you go like 20 feet out in front, and it's the most amazing hugeness that you've ever experienced. But it's, for some reason, the way those drums respond in the space, you don't hear it there. It needs time to open up to get out.
And conversely, there's some drums out there, too, that you really have to work really hard to get the sound out, even from behind the kit, much less, projected.
Right. Yeah. Let's not even get into the discussion of kits that sound great at your seat, but out in the house, you could be hitting this table.
Playing that Percussion Plus kit.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing about any of these Gretsch kits, the Steve Ferrone has become, at least for contemporary stuff, that's become my favorite live kit, man. I mean, I could take, like, I've got a set of Brooklyns. I love these Brooklyns. They're a different sound.
Right.
The kick drum's an 18-inch kick drum, so it's got a different response live. But overall, that kit has a melodious quality to it that the USA Custom stuff really doesn't. It doesn't do the same thing. There are a whole host of reasons why. Let's just leave it at that.
Sure.
It's a different
But you like
animal.
the sonic changes based on what the sonic gig is.
Right,
Sure.
right. I've got a couple of different new classic kits. I've got one new classic kit that's a 20-inch kick drum, probably my favorite 20-inch kick drum ever. And then I've got the full complement of toms, 8 all the way down to 16. And it's my kit when I need that kit that will handle the whole tonal range.
Sure.
You know, somebody puts me on a gig where I got to pretend to be Hal Blaine, and that's a good start for me because at least tonally I can get across the divide. And with that kit in particular, now I've sort of added on to it. That was the first kit. I've bought at least 2 kits from Kent Aberley now that I think about it.
Right.
I bought my first new classic kit from the ATL Collective.
Yep.
I mean, it was the first kit that they sold. I bought it when the store hadn't even opened yet.
Right.
They were still having.
That was like the first batch of stuff you had in there.
Yeah, it was up in that upper room where you kind of had to be ushered in
Right.
like they had to. They had a guy, a maitre d' they had a maitre d' with a towel that walked you in. Had a bow tie and
only one admittance at one time.
Sir, here's the door. That kind of thing, you know. So I bought that kit, and at the time it was 10, 12, 14.
Okay, nice.
Great studio kit. I ended up when I swapped from using the Ludwig's as my main recording kit, that kit became my main recording kit.
Sure.
Same sizes, slightly different sound, a sound I liked even more.
Absolutely.
And so then I eventually found I got to think about this a second.
Then you get the bop kit next?
No, I added more pieces to it. Okay.
The 16?
Get
You
this.
found the 16?
Get this. This is great. We're totally nerding out. People have so checked out of this.
Like they're talking about themselves.
If you're still listening to and or watching this, I love you intently because you are as big a geek as we are. So get this. So I bought. I know exactly what happened. I bought the 8 and the 16-inch toms from a guy in L.A. I want to tell you who it is because I'd love to name drop this, but
right.
I know that he actually endorses another company.
Right, don't do it.
Let's just say he's a drummer that has been in movies and been on tons of records and has you might have seen him on tour behind an artist that you know. Okay, so he endorses a different company, but he happened to be selling some things off, and he had parted out this Gretsch kit.
Gotcha.
Because this new classic kit has a very particular kind of finish. They only made this particular...
it's like 2 finishes at the time.
There was an early version and a later version of this vintage glass or whatever they call it, and this was the early version. There weren't a whole lot of kits that are in the wild that are this particular one.
It had a different sheen, like the second run or something.
Yeah, totally. I think I like the sheen better, but I think the general populace probably likes the newer one better.
I like the ones you have. They're pretty.
So I bought the 8 and the 16 from this guy in L.A. who gave me a great deal on them. They'd only been in the studio.
Yeah, they're mint.
They were mint, dude. And so I ended up with the full complement of the toms. I ended up getting, so it came with the snare drum, came with a 5.5 by 14 snare, which at the time I didn't have a 5.5 by 14 snare, so it was a great thing. But then I ended up, so I bought, people, if you can track this, you're going to love this. So I ended up loving the new classics so much that I came across a guy in like Montgomery who flips drums.
Okay.
If you buy stuff on eBay and Reverb, you probably know what I'm talking about. He had a set of these brand new in the box Gretsch new classics in the newer vintage glass finish that he had bought for himself, and he thought he was going to marry it with his other kit, which was the old finish.
Gotcha.
So
didn't quite work.
It didn't quite work. So he basically lost a good bit of money on this kit to sell them to me. So I would have a bop size. So it's 18, 12, 14. A total bop thing. I mean, like spot on, that sound. And that's what I take out for most of my bop gigs. If you look at my Facebook profile right now, the big picture at the top, that's that kit. But he also, because he had he subsequently had to buy more drums to match his. He was buying drums from a guy up in New York who had been on tour with Alicia Keys. And so he ended up buying this entire kit, touring kit, from this guy who did a summer with Alicia Keys.
Right.
And so he kept all the drums except for the snare drum. So I ended up getting a 4x14, which they don't really make in these new classics, that was custom made for this guy who used to play with Alicia Keys. And it's a cool sounding snare drum, dude. Like, as far as 4x14s go,
it's a nice one.
It's meaty, it's responsive. It's still, because of the way they make the drum, it's still got a lot of heft to it. Sure. It's a cool drum, and there's probably only like 3 of them that exist. So the new classics, it's one of those, because of the shell construction, it's more like a straight kind of maple thing, from what I understand. It's a little more of your middle of the road maple kit sound. Like USA Customs have a very identifiable sound. That particular shell combination, with the maple gum and maple or whatever. I'm not so geeky. I know exactly what that means, but I do know that it's different. Well, with the new classics, it's more like just a regular straight maple thing. And so it's that sound that if you're wanting a great sounding maple kit that does a whole lot of things, that's a Gretsch kit, it's that one.
Right.
Plus, it's freaking high end with the hardware and the nitron finish.
Yeah, it's a beautiful kit.
It's amazing kit. Amazing kit. I got a couple of the Renown kits. I got the Renown 57s just because at the time they were super cool. And one is the 10, 12, 14 with the 22-inch kick. I use it a lot on rock and roll oldies gigs. So if I go and do like a Platters, Drifters, Coasters gig, I'm taking that one because it looks like a 57 Chevy.
Right.
Why not?
Very cool.
It's a cool looking kit. And again, it's a great sounding maple-ish kit. And again, every time I've ever played, soundmen love it. Everybody that's on stage loves it. And then I also picked up one of their bop kits because I just got a stinking good deal.
Guitar, you have more pieces that match.
Well, yeah. Well, Guitar Center had it, and it had been sitting on like the top shelf since they got it. And number one, nobody wanted that look, and two, nobody knows how to play bop, so they didn't buy that kit. And I got a great deal on it. And and it mainly sits in my practice room. It's my jazz kit in my practice space, my teaching space. But occasionally I'll take it out if it's a black tie thing, and I think this will actually look better.
It's a good look for a black, yeah.
It's so cool, man. It's so cool. And there's some other kits that are in my assortment. Again, everything is about the right sound for the right approach. So I've got a set of the Gretsch round badges from the 50s. You were so generous to sell me a kit that you found at a stinking really good deal.
Stupid.
Ludwig WFL kit from the 50s, because I needed that vintage Gretsch sound. And that's one of the things I've learned as we're getting geeky about drums. You can't really make a brand new set of drums sound like a vintage kit.
No.
It just doesn't happen.
No.
You can't take a brand new Tama kit and make it sound like a round badge Gretsch kit or a vintage Ludwig kit.
Right.
You can damp some things, you can do some stuff to change the sound, but there's no sound in the world like a vintage kit. And so with all the different sessions that I do and some areas I'm pivoting into with my recording life, I needed some vintage sounds. So between the round badges and that WFL kit, I've got it covered.
Got a nice gamut of stuff.
And they're totally different animals. Same sizes on everything.
Right.
Totally different animals. And if we were going to waste another 3 hours online, we'd probably talk about why. But one of the Catalina Street kits I've got, and I use it on some bop gigs. I've used it, but it's really like my lo-fi funky hip hop thing.
It's cool.
It's not. That's definitely, of all the kits I've got, that's the moped.
So that's very cool that you really, the tools in the toolbox aspect where you change it based on what's going on.
You think if you go to Home Depot and you're going to go get a socket set, you're going to get a socket set that has how many attachments? As many as you can afford.
Right.
Because you're gonna spend $50 instead of $100. So you're gonna go spend $50 and you're going to go try and fix that thing that needs fixing on your car, the one time that you actually go try and fix your car, and you're going to go, dang it, I don't have the right one. I spent $50 on this thing.
So
what? When you needed to spend $100 and get all the full complement. That's kind of the idea.
So what's interesting is, in a lot of ways, we have the same approach. We just use different gear. So with the trick stuff, because it is so consistent and they only do one thing,
right?
Whether I swap out a bass drum size, because I've got all the sizes, 18s, 20s, 22s.
Well, we didn't mention that. But you pretty much have every size they make.
Yeah, multiple times over.
Yeah.
But because I have found for me the kit that I can do all these things that you described with one vehicle. Right. It's interesting. We actually both kind of described the same thing. The approach is slightly different.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Plus it's fun to see all kinds of, I have a little bit of ADD, just a little bit when it comes to gear that I play on. It's kind of nice to pull up and get to play a different looking set of drums. I do think that each of those kits
That's one area where we changed too.
Yeah.
All my drums were yellow. Yes, they match the shirt. Yes.
I was going to say.
This is all about my yellow today, baby.
Yes.
This is my favorite color. I was a huge Tony Williams fan.
Yeah.
Just trying to
Tony Williams yellow,
promote some sunshine happiness, baby.
That's the one thing about Vinny I don't think that I ever really got into. Like he had some yellow ass Gretches.
He did.
He did.
But in a way, because I've played this color for so long, it's kind of become a business card as well.
It's part of your branding and your identity.
Sure.
I get it. I totally get it.
Just having some fun with it, man.
Yeah. Cymbal-wise, I have to talk about, because I do have an endorsement deal with these guys. Cymbal-wise, I have been with Paiste officially since 1997.
Nice.
I have been using Paiste cymbals since 1989. I was a junior in high school, and I had a set of Zildjian New Beats, 14-inch, because that's what my parents bought me for Christmas.
Nice.
And they sounded great.
Right.
They sounded great. But I happened to be in Morrison Brothers Music in Jackson, Mississippi on a day trip, probably with my youth group or something, right? And because I had my drums with me. Yeah, youth group trip, definitely. Had my drums with me. They're out in the van, And so we go into Morrison Brothers, and they had a set of Paiste 2002 hi-hats. And in 1989, man, that was the sound.
Dude, were they the Sound Edge?
No, they weren't, though. That's the only thing. They weren't the Sound Edge.
That's okay. Still amazing sounding cymbals.
2002's a very versatile set of hi-hats, but for whatever reason, maybe because I was 17 and I was bored and I have a little bit of ADD, I thought I like these better than my New Beats. And two, talking about the identity thing, I had 3 different drummer friends that all had New Beats.
Right.
I wanted to be a little bit different.
What's your sound? Sure.
I wanted something that was a little more me, something that was a little more friend, something that was a little more... And Alex Van Halen played them. At the time, I think he was a 2002 hi-hat guy. And
that red lettering was badass.
Oh, man. It was like the deal, dude.
We would be remiss if we don't shout out to Mr. Tim Shahady, who is a mutual friend and long time
super supporter of me and the things that I do. And before I really got to know Tim more, Andrew Shreve, who's with Gretsch now,
right?
And that just kind of reminds me. Yeah. Let's see, Paiste and Andy and Gretsch, and I need to talk with Andy to see about something. I think we have a conversation we need to have. Anyway, so
he
Andrew
did say 68 snare drums.
yeah, and 12 drum sets, of varying sizes and shapes. Anyway, probably if I were to endorse them officially, I guarantee I will be the only endorser that has something in every tier of their line, their line offerings. I guarantee.
You're like me. You have as much gear as the factory does.
Yeah, there you go. My house looks like a music store. But I have great security, and I have 2 really not so nice dogs.
I thought you were going to say Dobermans.
They sound like it.
They do.
But so Paiste, so that was my first foray into Paiste. Obviously, I loved Alex Van Halen when I was in my high school.
Sure,
years,
absolutely.
like all of us. Like I tried to learn every tune except Hot for Teacher. And so getting those 2002 hi-hats, I was a little more like Alex Van Halen. I just happened to happened upon a set of hi-hats that were incredibly versatile. That started me down the road of Paiste. And so 96, 97, I happened to make friends with Rich Mangiacaro, who was with them at the time as their artist guy, and he brought me on as an artist. And then when he left, Andrew picked me up and was my guy. And now it seems like in one way or another, Tim Shahady and I message each other at least every week.
That's cool.
And so Paiste has been great about keeping in touch with me and paying attention to this really odd career that I have that is nothing like most of the people you would think that are working players. And not to mention the fact now, at the time, the things I liked about Paiste were that they sounded great, especially on recordings. I knew that even in the 90s, I wanted to be a recording drummer.
Absolutely.
That was my thing. But especially now, it seems like the past 7 or 8 years, they've really opened up their edges and they're manufacturing cymbals in ways that they didn't traditionally do that back in the 70s, 80s, 60s, like as far back as the company starting, they've started introducing these manufacturing techniques that expand the sonic possibilities of their line.
Right.
It's the one line of cymbals that I can honestly say I can get any kind of sound out of. If I want that classic, shiny, pristine Paiste sound, I can get that. Between 2002 stuff and signature stuff, I can get those sounds, and I've got things in both those lines.
Right.
If I want something that's a little more me and my sound today, a few years ago when they came out with the 602s, I almost bought a whole rack of vintage 602s. And then I got the bug in my ear, don't do that yet, because those things are expensive.
Right.
Don't do that yet. We're actually going to remake them. They sound just like the old 602s. And so, of course, when those came out, bought a whole rack of the 602s, and I loved them. They're a great all-around cymbal. Like, if you need a great sounding set of hats for any kind of gig, 602s are fabulous. If you need a great sounding, hey, that's a classic ride cymbal sound, 602s are great. But then,
dun, dun, dun.
of course, for a little while, my favorite drummer officially swapped to Gretsch drums.
Right.
After I'd been there for a while. I like to say he rode my coattails into that.
Yes, he
did. Makes me feel good about it.
We're watching you.
But then he swapped to another company, unfortunately. I do still have one of their kits.
Right.
But the thing that was like the shot heard around the world was when Vinny moved over to Paiste.
Absolutely.
And originally he started with the 602s, but I'm like, hey, we know Vinny. Vinny is all about his sound.
Yeah.
As he should be.
Yeah.
And so I kind of knew going in, whatever happens, he's eventually going to end up with his own thing.
Yeah.
And that's when they came out with the Modern Essentials. And I'll tell you this, the Modern Essentials are the first cymbal line that I bought sight unseen.
Right.
He had a lot to do with that.
Sure.
And the fact I love him so much has a lot to do with it. I'm a little bit of a fanboy. But the ideology behind them is really why I bought them, because
they sound phenomenal. I mean, they're beautiful sounding
cymbals. I knew
cymbals.
they would sound great in the studio,
right?
Because so much of my work takes place in that environment. I wanted something that I knew if my favorite guy who does a ton of recording was going to use them as his all-around go-to, then that was the ones for me. So, and he was right. It's like the most chocolatey, buttery, lush, amazing. It's got all the things you like about Paiste, that bright, pristine shimmer.
Because they do have a slightly higher frequency, especially recording-wise.
Right. But they've got this low, chocolatey, smoky thing that it's a warmth I've never really heard from a Paiste cymbal before. Amazing sound.
Sure.
But then again, in keeping with the right tool for the right job, now they've opened up their lines to more of the Turkish style. They brought in some of those Turkish manufacturing styles. And so when you get into like the 20 series, you get something that sounds more like what you're accustomed to. Mm-hmm. When you get into the traditionals, you get something it's like a newer version of an old sound. Right. And so across all of the lines now, I literally feel like I can walk in and, especially in my studio, there's a rack of cymbals there. I can pull off the perfect thing for whatever I'm doing.
Right.
It doesn't matter. And a lot of times when I go to gigs now, I usually will take 2 assortments of cymbals.
Yeah.
I'll take one that I know is going to sound great, and then I'll take a second set that I'm like, I don't know this room that I'm in. These might do better in a different kind of room. And almost always, I'll pull up and one of those sets is the perfect thing. Mm-hmm. Occasionally I'll be like, these other hi-hats from this other Paiste line sound better in this room.
Right.
But most of the time, like the other night, I pulled out Modern Essentials, boom, bada bing, they sound amazing. Other times I'll pull up and maybe it's some stuff from the 20 series that they just play better in the room. You know,
I still love some of the old Signature series, man. That's a great line of cymbals.
Dude. I've got most of the Signature stuff I have now, like the dark crisp hats. You can't really get them anymore,
right.
And that is a very identifiable sound. I love the Signature sound. Was one of the first things that I went, I need to try and buy everything.
Right. So I have the whole family. Got to have it.
So I've got a full complement of Signature stuff that I still do pull them out. Probably not as much as I used to now that they've got these other offerings. But yeah, there's like a sound to those things that when it's the right screwdriver for the right nut,
Sure.
Tool analogy.
I think we've geeked out on these folks good enough today.
Have we? You know what we haven't talked about, though?
What?
And maybe we can put this out as a call to action. Here's my area of frustration right now.
Okay.
Since 97, I had, up until a couple of years ago, I had been with a stick company.
Okay.
And for one reason or another, we didn't talk about heads, by the way.
That's true.
We'll circle back. Hang on. Let me finish this thought.
Yeah.
So I had been with a particular stick company for a while, and especially when it was more of a mom and pop establishment, and I could get most anything I wanted done, and they understood kind of the arc of what I'm doing. I used another brand of stick. Mm-hmm. At a certain point, I definitely got to the point where you are with your drums and your cymbals, where I wanted one stick that did
all of it,
at least 95% of it. And so I started looking around in other companies, and I found some nice surrogates. But now, having gone through trying some different things and maybe trying a few prototypes having been made for me, thank you very much for hooking me up with some of that stuff, and to a few people out there that may be watching this that have made some things for me, thank you very much. I'm on the quest for the perfect stick. The perfect stick for me.
Sure.
That hopefully, like everything else that I'm starting to brand, is a great all-around perfect stick for a lot of other people. I think you're in the same boat too.
Yeah.
In that you had some sticks that were your perfect stick that maybe for one reason or another you're not able to get what you'd like.
Yes, I would agree with that. There's a challenge with that.
Where does that leave us?
Looking for sticks. Because we have these designs. I'm
going to put myself in this camera right here and go,
I'm thinking.
Is that enough of a hint?
That's pretty good. I like it.
So we're both on the hunt, not only for a new stick company, but particularly someone who can make exactly the thing that we want. Because yours is very specific. You've actually had another company make your stick.
Yes.
Mine, I've had some prototypes of. I've had something that I've been using that's very close, but I do have designs on exactly what it is that I'm looking for now. And getting somebody to make that has been the challenge. And the past year, almost 2 years, I've had people make things for me, but they just haven't been the right thing.
Not quite the right fit.
So, especially now where I am with the Session Ace brand, and where I am in the fact that the one stick that was my surrogate has now been discontinued. And I bought every one that was available in North America and half of South America. So there is no more stock of this stick.
Interesting. Still interesting to see where that one surfaces.
Yeah. And we'll see how that turns out. But I also have some things I want to do with the stick that have never really been done commercially. Sure. Some features on a stick that make it an incredibly versatile stick.
And we'd like to do some branding for the show.
Of course.
And sell them on the site.
So we're just going to throw that out into the world, and we're just going to say, if there's anyone that is within the sound of our voice, our virtual wavelengths.
Two working pros that
are also very good businessmen.
Yes.
That know how to sell things and know how to get other people sold on great
products.
Products, great tools. Or the tagline for Session Ace is remarkable tools for musical craftsmen. Really,
like
that's really what I know. That's what I'm about, and that's what you're about. So we're just going to throw that out in the world. Since we're in front of a camera, in front of the interwebs.
And there
are a lot of people I know. Dude, there are people now, looking at the stats from the past few weeks, there are people from Ireland and Scotland. I think we had a few people from France this week that were watching and were listening. We broke into Asia not literally, but figuratively, we broke into Asia. Broke into Asia this week, especially Japan and China. I loved seeing that come across the analytics.
That's very nice.
So we're starting to be, we're global,
out.
Man. We are truly global at this point. So I'm sure that there's someone within the sound of our voice that would like to entertain a conversation.
Sure.
We'll just kind of say that.
So I will backtrack us a little bit back to drumheads.
Yes, because again, you and I both have made a change.
Yes. I about a year ago, I made a change for the better. And I want to shout out to Mr. Chris Brady at Aquarian Drumheads for welcoming me into the Aquarian Drumhead family. I could not be happier with talking about having the right tools in the toolbox, the amount of versatility that they have, and especially with the particular drums that I use with my tricks, I absolutely love them. Amazing products and great people. Chris is an amazing guy. Him and Tim and Mike Dorfman, just wonderful people in the industry. So thank you for that. Yeah. And conversely,
I had been with 97, 98, right around that time was when most of my endorsements I solidified. And I'm one of those guys, I'm a lifer, man. When I love something, I love it for a long time.
Dedicated people.
Yeah. I mean, just ask my wife. She's been with me for 22 years, buddy.
Right. Checks in the mail, Rose.
I stick with it, man. Thick or thin, baby. But again, a couple of years ago, as I was really refining my sound, especially for recording, the company I'd been with since 97 took a little bit of a turn.
They were one of these companies that got absorbed by another one.
Yeah, they got absorbed by a larger company, and that company that absorbed them did what that company does, and it's a smart business move. They homogenized the lines. They took a lot of these different offerings and pared it down to the most profitable things for them to make, the things that were most popular.
Cookie cutter corporate.
Well, yeah, and it's valid. It's a valid way of
it's business. I mean, absolutely.
I mean, it looks better on the P&L statement. It definitely does. And it's a way to run your business. And for some people, it works. Unfortunately for me, eventually it sort of homogenized the sound of this company's products so that other than swapping from, say, a single ply head to a double ply head, or from a more open head to one that was treated, we'll just call it a treated head if it has some kind of applique on it that makes it sound different. Other than those tonal differences, I really couldn't really tell much of a tone difference from line to line or from segment to segment in their catalog. I needed the right tool for the job, and you realize I'm about to out myself here.
I know.
On international television.
National television.
International now, baby.
Chew TV, because you're about to get chewed.
Woo! Oh, there are 100,000 DJs that are riveted to their screens right now. They're watching. They're going, "What is he about to say? What is he about to say? What is he about to say?" I have fallen in love with Aquarian Drumheads, man. I used them back when I was a teenager when I loved Randy Castillo, and I got those studio, I guess it had the white and black on the outside and the white dots on the inside. And Randy Castillo was my dude. I had the instructional video with the pink background because men like pink in the background. Pink background, black drums, black leather. Nothing says masculine rock and roll like that. And he was using Aquarian Drumheads at the time. That was my first. Unfortunately, that was all I knew about their sound, and so eventually I moved on.
Sure.
But yeah, shout out to a couple of our friends that some that are endorsed and some that aren't. Ken Aberley is one person that I'll give him some props.
Always been a big proponent.
I'll give him some props because he turned me on to the modern vintage heads, and I will say that at this point, like 60% of the time, I'm using modern vintage heads.
And another one would be Mike Froge, another great drummer in town, engineer, producer.
Those
are
guys. Some of the guys that were using Aquarian drum heads that I was able to actually get in front of a kit with them and listen to them. And for the past 2 years, I literally have. I hate how people throw that word around, but I just did it. I would get in my car and drive to the ATL Collective.
ATL Drum Collective. Because there is an ATL Collective.
This is where I make the snip in the edit.
Insert.
And it looks like I
The ATL Drum Collective.
This makes it in the outtakes.
Brother Clint runs a nice shop down there.
So I went to the ATL Drum Collective. For the past 2 years, I've been going to the ATL Drum Collective, getting in my car and driving 45 minutes one way to go and get my drum heads from those guys.
And I will say this to tag onto this. For those of you that don't know, ATL Drum Collective has the best selection of drum heads in this town. Yeah. If you need something, they have it. They have a whole set of sizes versus like one of something and no others to match.
Especially when it comes to things like drum heads, they are what Atlanta Pro used to be to us back in the day.
Yes.
Like you walk in, Atlanta Pro, I used to buy my sticks there before I had an endorsement deal.
There's a wall of everything ever made.
Everything was there. You could go, hey man, do you have the Chips Enough signature drumsticks with the neon stamping and the light up tips?
You really were an 80s guy, weren't you?
Yeah, baby. They would break those sticks out. Not only would they have one pair, they would have 12 pair of them. Right. You could buy a whole brick of them there. ATL Drum Collective is like that now, especially with drum heads. You walk in, the entire wall.
And accessories. They're great with a lot of stuff that, the stuff that you really need when, you can find it there.
So for the past 2 years, I've been getting in my car and driving down there and getting my drum heads from them when I could be, because I still have a relationship with this other company.
Order what you need and
because
save some money.
I endorse some of their other product lines that have nothing to do with drum heads or drumsticks. I could jump on there and I could get artist pricing on all that stuff. But for me, the sound that I found, and again, it's not one sound. That's the thing I love about Aquarian, is that if there's a sound in my head, they probably make a head that will do that thing. And there's a drastic difference between the modern vintage heads and just their standard run-of-the-mill single ply coated ambassador style head.
Mm-hmm. Texture coated.
Yep. There's a huge difference. Now, there's some things in that line that are familiar to me. I've been using the Force Ones on my kick drums because there was a certain head in this other company's line that I liked that head. I was a diehard for that head.
Right.
And they make something that's incredibly similar.
Yep. I use that one myself.
Yeah, it's a great head. With one of my vintage kits, I've got the modern vintage that has the little felt strip that's built into the head. It does what I would normally do, and it doesn't rattle. It's a problem with putting the felt strip in is eventually it stretches out and it starts flapping, and the microphone hears it. And so now I've got a felt strip that's actually adhesived onto the head. I don't have to worry about those things anymore. Aquarian takes out all my worries.
And those modern vintage heads sound great on anything. I've got a set of those on the studio kit right now.
I put a set of them. The first place I used them were on my main USA Custom drums. And I put them on there, didn't think much about them, put the classic clear thing on the bottoms. Is that what they call them?
Classic clears, yeah.
Okay. I'm not into the nomenclature yet, but I'll get there. Put the classic clears on the bottoms, put the modern vintage on the top, and I thought I'd bought a new drum set.
Right.
And for the better. I thought my drums had sounded good. I thought I'd gotten a great recording sound. I don't have EQs right now in my studio because I don't need them on my drums.
Right.
Because these heads just immediately got me the sound in the room at the microphone that I needed.
And you actually turned me onto the modern vintages. I hadn't tried them yet.
Oh,
and they Great sounding drum
Yeah,
heads.
great. But the texture coateds are great. I use those. I've got a few of the snare drums that have the Jack Dijonette. And again, that's one of those things where it's not just a black coated head.
Right.
It's a different kind of drum head. Like if I take the same snare drum and put the regular white texture coated and then take it off and put a modern vintage on it, different drum.
Absolutely.
Take that off, put the Jack Dijonette, different drum. Very, very different sounds for across the entire line.
Yeah.
And if I want to go back to my Randy Castillo sound,
you can
with my big old rock and roll drums, I can get.
And the durability of these heads is unbelievable. They last a lot longer than everything else, I would say too.
Oh yeah.
And very consistent. When you sometimes you could pull other brands out of a box and they don't necessarily match up, but these are spot on.
Well, the thing that finally sold me, again, I'm one of those guys that I need a lot of things.
Sure. You're needy. It's okay.
I'm very needy. I'm very needy. I take up a lot of your bandwidth. I just no. I'm very specific.
Yeah.
Artistically, if there's any artist in me at all, it's the guy who's very specific about. I need this right now to do this this way because I want it to be perfect. I want it to be the thing that's in somebody else's head or that's in my head, and like I want people when they hear something that I do to go, holy cow. What sort of wizardry is this?
Right. He's amazing.
I really like a Jedi approach to the art of sound, whether I'm playing the drums or engineering whatever.
Right.
And so there was one thing after all of that sold me on Aquarian as being the one brand I could get into that could handle anything. And that's when it came to the vintage drums. So the problem with having vintage drums, and I've got, like I said, I've got the two kits, and I've got a whole cadre of vintage snare drums. And the problem with a lot of vintage drums is that they're a different size than modern drums.
Sure.
You go take your regular coated ambassador and you put it on a Gretsch snare drum from the 50s, and it's not going to fit.
Yep.
Unless you want to stand on it, put your elbow into it, and tap on it with a little tack hammer, and if you want it. But to set the head on a vintage drum and have it go and have enough room around there that you can really seat it properly and then tune it properly. When I found out that they make this American hoop versus this other standard kind of hoop.
Right.
Then that sold me because now, especially with snare drums, but also toms and kick drums, but especially snare drums, I know if I have a vintage drum, or sometimes I'll get a boutique drum from a boutique manufacturer, some mom and pop, and they do something real weird. Stave shells are kind of like this. There's a bunch of different drums that are like this that are new drums. You get that wider collar, you set it right on there, and there's no work to be done.
Right.
Other than just making sure it's centered up really.
Sure.
Tunes up perfectly. And I'll tell you something, and again, I'm not a scientist. I don't even play one on the internet. But there is something about the way they make the collar on these drums that it almost comes with a little bit of tension built into it.
Yeah, they're almost pre-tuned a little bit.
So if I put the head on and I go finger tight all the way around, and I give it just a little bit more finger tightness so that it actually begins to pull the head taut, I can actually play the drum.
Yeah.
So when you're going for that big, like we were talking about big country earlier, that gushy kind of sound where the heads are just as low as they'll go, you can actually go lower and still have some response out of the head. I don't know Chris Brady, you're going to have to tell us what this voodoo is because I have no idea. But you can get a much lower tuning out of these and get a usable pitch and a usable response out of these heads. And it's the first time I've ever seen that. Like, I don't really go around looking for the ripples anymore.
Yeah, because you get them, they come to tension so much quicker. I think it's part of it's a shorter collar.
Something about it, man.
But it's funny. The first time I put a new set on and not knowing that, you go to your old standby and you're like, okay, I've over there. No, these are not.
They're too high.
Yeah, right. So you back them off and you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, your brain's doing this thing.
You end up saving time tuning.
Yeah.
Because they're quicker to respond.
They really do. And they're very forgiving too. If you happen to knock, like snare drums, if you happen to knock a lug out a little bit, tension rod kind of comes out.
Yeah, it doesn't detune on you.
It doesn't detune nearly as much. And if it does, if I'm really waylaying some stuff and I happen to knock it out, the overall pitch of the drum doesn't change very much, and the sound of the drum doesn't change a whole lot.
You don't lose it, sure.
And that's the worst thing in the world. Like if I'm doing a track and it's a 4-minute track and I'm just punishing, like whittling these things to sawdust. Even if I put lug locks on the things, I'm knocking the lug locks off. Right. And what I find is that if I listen at the beginning of the take to the end of the take, when everything has come off the rails, the drums sound almost identical. Even though the tuning has changed, even though I've got tension rods laying on the floor,
sure, the consistency
something about that head, man. I don't know what that voodoo science is, but and that's important. That's super important for me because there's nothing worse than getting the perfect take and then going back and going, crap.
Right.
The snare drum
dropped
like 3 steps lower than when I started, and now I got to punch in and do all this other stuff. No, it's fine. I use
retrack it,
Yeah, man, I'm trying to optimize my time.
Right. Yeah.
And
time is money, Brian.
Speaking of optimizing time, before we get out of here, I got to pimp this thing.
Okay.
I'm going to throw up the old graphic.
Do it.
Make sure you support our sponsor because you are directly supporting us.
Absolutely. And we appreciate it.
Yeah. A ton of you guys have gone to the Session Ace website and bought a set of the ESTs. These are hands down. I don't flinch when I tell you these are the best in-ear monitors that you'll ever buy for yourself. Dollar figure, fit, non-fit, what? I
agree. They sound amazing.
It's the best sounding set.
Best money you'll spend.
It really is. And it's affordable enough that you could probably even buy 2 and have a nice backup or have a set for the practice room and a set for your gigs.
Just have a set everywhere. Just make it easy.
You know what? At that price,
you don't have to, right?
You could either
buy a set.
You could buy a set of $1,200 ears, or you could have 12 sets of ESTs in 12 different places. If that's not a great sales pitch, I don't know what it is.
That's genius. So that's how you get value for your money, kids.
Yeah, that's it, baby. That's how you do it, as Dave King says.
And that's how you get the gigs.
That's right.
Man, I wish he would come back to doing some more of those things.
I know, right?
We got to get him on the show. Maybe we'll talk. We'll talk to him about that.
Let's do that. All right.
Write that. Put that in a spreadsheet. And guys, thank you for hanging with us. Hopefully, you got a ton of value out of this. Hopefully, you geeked out with us.
And if you have questions, let us know. You want to talk about your gear or what you use or what you like, what you don't like, hit us up.
Yeah, I mean, take a picture of your drums in your practice space or on your gig or in whatever recording session you're doing, and make sure you hashtag us. Hashtag Dial a Drummer. Leave some comments. Ask us a question. You can always email that to us, dialadrummer@gmail.com. And please, by all means, follow us on every social media network. And now, if you do a little search on chew.tv, you'll probably find Dial a Drummer as well. So
nice.
Everywhere, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, and a whole bunch of other places that you may not even know that we are right now. So just do a search for Dial a Drummer and share us with all your friends. Bring your friends into this nice little family of people that like to geek out on drums. And if you don't already know, dialadrummer.net is the site. You can watch us. You can listen to us. There's so many ways you can get to us. And that's all I got, brother.
That's a good one. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging out with us yet another week.
13, baby. We made it. 13. Lucky 13.
What is that in? That's more than my brain. I think my brain's checked out at this point. So, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here every week with us. Thanks for sharing us with your friends and bringing more friends to the party. Put one foot in front of the other. Just keep playing some great music and go out there and just be awesome. See ya. Bye.